Hey, before we get started, I want to let you know about Buzzsprout podcast hosting. Right now, you can get a free $20 Amazon gift card when you sign up for any of their paid plans. It's what I use to host this podcast, but it's also what I recommend because they're extremely easy to use. They have really fair pricing. They price per hour instead of megabytes. It's free to start, so you get up to 90 days for free if you want. Customer support is really quick and awesome. You get a nice website player that you can embed. You get a nice website as well. They are constantly coming out with new features. They just added in an affiliate marketplace. They are about to update their stats, and they've done a ton of stuff just in the last year. So I highly recommend them, and you can go to buzzsproutdeal.com to get that free $20 Amazon gift card when you sign up for one of their plans. So again, that's buzzsproutdeal.com. Hey, and welcome to episode 57 of the Podcasting Simplified podcast. My name is Ross, and today we are going to talk about the best webinar software. So it's become pretty popular to be, working from home, or maybe you have a podcast and you want to be able to teach someone something in kind of a live format with video, or maybe you want to sell something, or just do some trainings or provide value to your audience. Whatever it is, webinar software is crucial to do those things. So I put together a couple of the kind of, in my opinion, the best platforms, and we'll go through them. So first of all, there's kind of a wide variety of pricing, capability, features among the different platforms. And so I'm going to try to highlight some of the best things about my favorites, and then I'll touch on the pricing as well. And you'll find that there's kind of a pretty broad market. So there's some that are really focused on more of the online marketing community and selling. There's others that are more focused on education and e-learning and kind of everything in between. Companies like Adobe have platforms called Adobe Connect, and then there's smaller ones like Demio, which is really focused on marketers. And so we'll get into that. And the first one we're gonna start with is called Easy Webinar, and like the name implies, it's actually really extremely easy to use for both you, the presenter or the teacher, and your guests. And it looks great. It's modern. It doesn't look dated or anything. And they have both live and automated webinars. So what you can do is create a live webinar, and then, assuming everything goes well, you can then turn that into an automated or evergreen webinar that people can sign up for on demand, basically, and watch whenever they want. So it's really nice that that's all in one platform. You don't have to pay extra for, to get the automated features or anything. And then some other highlights of Easy Webinar are there's a new EasyCast feature, which lets you stream to Facebook Live and YouTube Live at the same time as you're doing your webinar to your audience. So it's just a way to kind of help get the word out there and reach more people all at one time, which is really cool. And there's advanced analytics that show you if people showed up, how long they stayed, and then even if they clicked on maybe an offer that you showed or something. So you can see all that stuff in your stats, and even use that data to then send emails to people who left, or send different emails to people who didn't show up or something like that, which is really cool. And kind of along that topic of emails, they integrate with MailChimp, ConvertKit, Aweber, all the popular email service providers that I recommend, at least. And then another feature that is really cool that not all of them have is SMS, text message, and Skype integration to remind people to show up. And so what you do with that is you ask people to leave a phone number, and you make sure you tell them you're only using it to remind them to show up for the webinar. And that will greatly increase the chance that people will see it, and greatly increase the chance that people will show up for your webinar when they get a text message, which is really nice. And there's a bunch of case studies on the Easy Webinar site from a bunch of high-profile people and companies that have used the platform. So pricing starts at $78 a month for up to 100 live attendees. And then it goes up to $129 a month for 500 live attendees. Although you can save quite a bit. I believe you can save 3 months worth if you pay annually. So you pay, for the year upfront. And all these platforms have free trials for the most part. They're 2-week free trials. So I'll leave links in the description. And also you can go to podcastinsights.com/57 to go over to the blog post and have all the show notes for this as well. The next platform is Webinar Ninja. And this one was co-founded by Omar Zenhom of the $100 MBA podcast, which has been a long time top business podcast on Apple Podcasts. So you definitely know he knows the needs of podcasters and online creators. And you can run with Webinar Ninja, you can run any type of webinar, live, automated. You can even create a series of webinars or a hybrid where it's automated, but you can kind of pop into the chat and talk with people. So that's really cool. And then all the kind of features you would expect in a webinar platform are included. So you get a chat, a question and answer area. You can have polls while you're doing your presentation. You can have offers pop up, and there's other even more features than that. So there's nothing to download. You can offer replays with the option to have them expire after a certain number of days, which is kind of cool. Kind of promotes, gets people to take action, and if they missed it, at least get them to watch it before it expires. And then they also integrate with everything, email platforms and CRM systems. They are GDPR compliant and have awesome real support, which is really cool. And I know this is sort of subjective, but I think they have one of the best looking designs for everything from the dashboard to the registration pages and thank you pages, and even your attendees experience and the platform, how it looks. So big fan there of Webinar Ninja. And then another bonus is they have a webinar search engine. So it's basically everyone who's on their platform can choose if they want their webinars to be public, and then people can find them on their search engine. So another way to kind of increase exposure for free. And they have some of the best entry-level pricing. So webinar platforms aren't cheap overall, but they have a $39 a month plan when you pay annually for up to 100 attendees. And then they have several other plans that scale up to 1,000 live attendees for $199 a month when you pay annually. And the price is a little more if you pay monthly, but you can check all that out on their pricing page. And so the next one is Demio, and they call themselves hassle-free webinar software for marketers. And they also have an impressive list of customers. And like Webinar Ninja, they have one of the better looking webinar platforms, which really helps make your brand or your podcast or your blog, whatever, it makes you look good while you're teaching, because these platforms can kind of affect how people think of you. And I think it's important to have something that looks good, modern, and easy to use. So highlights for Demio include live, hybrid, automated, and on-demand webinars. So we kind of touched on all those different types already. You can easily turn existing live webinar recordings into automated webinars that people can sign up for on demand, for instance. They have excellent analytics that are being regularly improved. I actually looked at their change log just a couple days ago, and they were updating some of the stats about who showed up and who didn't, depending on certain things that happen in the platform. So really cool to see them constantly updating there. They have integrations with Drip, ActiveCampaign, MailChimp, ConvertKit, and more as far as email providers. There's no downloads. It's all browser-based. And then one thing that is pretty cool is you can, and also other platforms do this too, but you can upload slides or share videos right inside Demio. So that means you don't need to open up PowerPoint or Keynote on your screen. You can actually upload it into the webinar platform, and then it's all built in. And so you don't have to kind of switch screens and flip around. And it just helps make the entire presentation much more professional and smooth. And yeah, it just makes it easy. And then they also have polls, call to actions that you can pop up, handouts. So if you have a cheat sheet or maybe like a note-taking thing you want to give people, which is actually really good to help kind of increase engagement, you can provide handouts right inside the platform that people can download when they get in. There's a chat system, of course, all built in. And you can start a free trial with all the features included without a credit card. And when you decide to pay, pricing starts at $49 a month for 50 attendees and goes up to $234 a month for 500 attendees. And you will need to be on the $99 a month plan, which is the middle tier, to get access to the automated events, automated webinars. And you can save 30% by paying annually, which brings those prices down quite a bit. Now, the next one is WebinarJam. And this one is highly recommended. I've seen it for a long time. And they actually completely rebuilt their entire platform in February 2020. So they're focused on using webinars to sell. So that could be services, products, online courses, stuff like that. But you can definitely use it for any purpose that you want. They have a ton of features in WebinarJam. And their software, this is kind of where they set themselves apart. It has the ability to reach up to 5,000 people. So if you have a larger audience that you're teaching or selling to, this is the platform you want to use. And people can join from any device, so desktop, phone, tablet, you name it, it'll work. And one cool feature that I wanted to highlight is they have a drawing board. So what you can do is kind of draw right over your screen or over your PowerPoint presentation. And so you can do annotations or highlight things with a little pen tool or whatever you want. So that's kind of a nice feature that just makes it more interactive. And there's a bunch of different scheduling options, kind of like the other platforms. So you can have people sign up right now or scheduled or have a series. And analytics are easy to understand, kind of a nice visual. I recommend you go over to podcastinsights.com/57 and you'll see a screenshot of their analytics. So it shows visitors and then the sign up rate and how that goes into the show up rate and how many live attendees there were and how many replay attendees there were. So kind of cool. Makes it easy to see. And then other highlights that you could HD everything, which really all the platforms have. There's one-click registration. So if you already have, if someone is on your email list and you already have their name and email address, you can set it up so that people don't need to fill out a form. They just click a link and that info is just passed into the WebinarJam system, and it just makes it really easy to sign up, kind of reduces friction, and should increase sign-up rates. And there's polls and surveys. You can add attendees as speakers or guests. So if you want to have someone come in and answer their questions or something, you can have them be a part of your live presentation. There is a registration page builder. There's templates you can use. There's A/B testing, so you can see which pages work better to get people to sign up. There are email and SMS text reminders and follow-ups that you can send. You can even charge for presentations if you want. So if you're doing like a paid thing, you can do that. There's a lot more. There's a ton of stuff there. And so pricing is only billed annually. That's the only option. And it is $499 for up to 500 attendees. But for an extra $16.66 a month extra, you can have up to 2,000 attendees and you get some other upgrades as well. So there is a $1 free trial of WebinarJam if you want to check that out. And then there is kind of a sister company to WebinarJam, and that is EverWebinar, which is their automated evergreen webinar platform. And so the downside of the separate platforms, I guess it could be a pro or a con. If you just want one and you just want to pay for one system, that's great. But if you want the automated system, you'll have to pay separately. And Otherwise, the automated system has all the same kind of features that are in WebinarJam, and you also get a bunch of different sign-up options for the automated version. So you get specific sign-up dates and times if you want. You can have recurring sign-up dates. So if you want your webinars, your automated webinars, to always be available on Tuesday at 3 p.m., you can have those, just go into the future forever and people can sign up. There's just-in-time webinars, so people can start within minutes of someone registering, which is kind of cool. So, they come on and it says the webinar is starting in 15 minutes. And so they sign up and then they, can get all the emails and everything ahead of time and they'll be ready to go. So that's another option. And you can easily turn, the platforms do connect. So you can turn your WebinarJam recordings into evergreen webinars in every webinar. And there's some options that let's just say I'm not quite sure on the ethicalness of it, but you can make your automated webinars appear to be live, and so everything, including your chat and polls, can show up live, basically, like they're happening, and there's no indication that everything is recorded. So I don't think you should deceive people. I think you should make it clear that it's a recorded webinar if you're going to use something like that, but just know that it looks live to people. And so the pricing for every webinar is $499 a year. And again, there's a 14-day $1 trial if you want to try it out. And then there's a couple other platforms. I'm not going to go into depth on them, but there's ones like Adobe Connect that I mentioned earlier. Zoom can actually be used for webinars, although it's not really designed for that. GoToWebinar is another platform. ClickMeeting, Livestorm is a popular one. And these tend to go scale up into the more educational and enterprise-y levels. So I didn't really want to get into them and wanted to focus more on the marketing ones that I think are best for us content creators. And then there are a few free webinar platforms that may be a good way to get started or, try things out. So you can use Google Hangouts Meet. If you already use G Suite for your email, you'll have access to that, and it'll allow up to 100 people to sign up for the basic edition or 150 people on the business plan. And then they also give you a dial-in phone number for people to use as well. So that's kind of cool. And then there's YouTube, Facebook, and Twitch Live. So those aren't exactly webinar platforms, but it's a way to reach people live, and they're free platforms. So if you have audiences in those places, that's where I would start. And then there are a few things to just kind of consider when looking over these platforms, because they're not all exactly equal. So a few things: the ease of use, the budget, number of attendees you need, reliability, webinar frequency, branding, and do you need recordings and replays, and then analytics and what your needs are there. And then also just be sure and ask yourself if you absolutely need certain features right now, because you can always change platforms or upgrade to higher tiers later on. So I would just encourage you to take advantage of the trials that a lot of these offer if you're interested in webinar software, so that you can make sure it's a good fit, make sure it works for you. Do a small test webinar with just a few people, and get a good feel for it before you commit to purchasing one of the platforms. So that wraps up everything for the best webinar platforms. If you want to go read all this stuff, be sure and go to podcastinsights.com/57 or check out the show or episode description in whichever podcast app you're listening in, and you'll see links to the post or to the individual platforms that you can check out. And that's it for today. So I appreciate you listening, and I'll see you in the next episode.